Hi friends, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Steph. Okay, if you've been around following us for a little while, you know we love refinishing furniture. We've done a ton of videos on it and we love showing you all of our little tips and tricks.
I know there are so many different choices of paint. A trip to the hardware store, you can be totally overwhelmed by all the choices of paint.
In this video, you'll learn which type of paint is best for all different kinds of furniture, whether it be wood, laminate, plastic, metal, you name it. You will get the answers you need and you will get proven results.
And we're going to go through every type of paint and we're going to share with you the best type of paint to use on your particular type of furniture. You're going to learn about all different kinds of paint and the best time to use them.
So it's obvious not all furniture paint is created equal, and the last thing you want to do is spend hours or even days refinishing a piece only to see the paint chip off or peel or be prone to dents and scratches. Not only are there different types of paint, but each has its own unique look, feel, and durability. You may have also wondered, what is the most durable paint for furniture? Can you paint furniture with wall paint? What kind of paint can you use on furniture without sanding? So in this video, we will answer these questions and help you feel confident in choosing the right paint when painting furniture that will last. Be sure to tap that description box down below to get your own copy of our ultimate guide to choosing paint. This is a quick reference to all that we will be discussing in this video, and it will help you know which paint you need for your specific project.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel. You'll find lots of ideas for DIY projects for your home and lots of tips and tricks for refinishing furniture.
Let's talk about the best type of paint for bookcases. Now, latex paint is not that. If you do, you'll end up having the books or the decor that you place on your shelf sticking to the paint, and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, in humid conditions, it tends to get a little bit tacky. If you've heated up a latex paint, you know that it's stretchy, and so that tackiness always kind of remains in the paint. And so it is not the best paint for bookcases. When I painted my built-in bookcases, I really wanted to use an oil-based paint, but I quickly discovered that it is no longer sold in our county and many counties around us because of the fumes that it gives off and for air pollution regulations. And so it may not be available in your area. And so because of that, I was not able to use an oil-based paint, and I did use a latex paint, and I'm not that crazy about it. So I would suggest that you try this paint here. This is a cabinet and a trim enamel. It has the features and the quality and the durability of an oil-based paint, but is still a water-based paint. So this does not have primer in it, it is only paint, but we have used this for a lot of projects and really like the durability. And so it is a good choice for painting bookcases.
You can find this type of paint in Behr, Valspar, and Sherwin-Williams, and we have really liked the way that it paints and it goes on. It's really a smooth finish, and we have done a lot of projects with it. We've done this built-in desk in my daughter's room. We've used it on some furniture for a client, the kitchenette in our basement, and the built-in entertainment center as well. We did use an oil-based paint on this bed, and you can see how well it's really held up over the last 15 years with two boys. You may also be wondering if you can use your standard wall paint for furniture, and you absolutely can. That's what we did with this dresser. We had such a difficult time finding that right shade of navy for our bedroom that I decided to use the same paint for my dresser.
Now, when choosing a latex paint, you know, you have a good quality, a better, and a best. And you want to choose the best quality when selecting your latex paint because the durability will be better. And with furniture, you're constantly got things rubbing on it, setting on it, the drawers are coming in and out, and so that's going to improve your durability. Another thing that you can do when painting with a latex paint is add that flow trowel to the paint. That's going to help you minimize brush strokes and you also want to make sure you're using a good quality brush. You can also apply your paint with a paint sprayer as well, and that will give you really good professional results. The question that we get asked the most is, do I have to sand the piece of furniture before I paint? And I don't know what turns people off about sanding. I realize it's a mess, but
Takes time.
it really isn't that bad, and sometimes it's necessary to achieve good results. And so sometimes you do need to sand, but there are products that can eliminate or lessen the need to sand your pieces of furniture. And so let's go through what those products are.
If you're using a latex paint, you can use a liquid sandpaper or a deglosser. It does only work on latex, so just be mindful of that. But you'll basically just rub it on the piece of furniture, follow the directions on here, and it's just going to help create a surface for the paint to bond between the two layers of paint. If your piece does have some chipping or dents or things like that, you will want to sand through those areas a little bit first, but other than that, you can use this.
So we use this liquid sandpaper on these chairs when I refinish them, and also on the doors that we painted for Steph's house.
Another way you can avoid sanding is to apply a good bonding primer like the Zinsser Cover Stain. It's an oil-based interior-exterior primer and sealer, or the Kiehl's Adhesion Interior-Exterior Primer. Not only will this create a surface for the new layer of paint to bond to, but this method also works well for glossy varnished surfaces. There are tons of paints out there now that will specify that no sanding is required, but chalk paint is probably the most popular one, or the one you've at least heard about. But there are so many to choose from.
There is the Annie Sloan, you probably heard of, Rethunk Junk. There is an Rust-Oleum Chalked. Americana has a chalk paint, but we actually prefer to use Behr's chalk paint. It works just as great as the other chalk paints, but it's less expensive. And you know, we are always mindful of our budget.
And you can match it to any color too.
Recently, one evening, about 9 p.m., on a whim, I decided to paint the lower portion of this coffee table with some chalk paint. And I didn't have my good brush at home. It was at Steph's house. And so I used a cheap brush I had, and you could see every brush stroke. And so that required more sanding in between coats to get it to look good like I wanted to. So that is my little plug for always using a good quality brush. It's true you do not need to sand before applying chalk paint. However, you do need to sand between the coats as well as the last coat for that silky smooth finish. Before we were finished this coffee table, it really looked like it was headed to the trash, but it's amazing what a little paint can do. Chalk paint will require a top coat. Now there are several options. Probably the most common is a wax, but for a more durable finish, you can use a water-based polyurethane if your chalk paint is light colored. If it's a dark colored polyurethane, you can go ahead and use an oil-based one. The oil-based can yellow, so you don't want to use that on a light colored paint.
So milk paint has been around for years, and it dates clear back to the colonial days, and it's made with limestone, clay, pigment, and the milk protein, which is where it gets its name of milk paint. Milk paint will give you that chippy, aged, and worn look, although the consistency is a lot thinner, so it will require several coats. It will bond to the surface, but it will also chip in random spots, but that can be controlled a little bit by adding a bonding agent.
I have used milk paint on a sofa table, on this bookcase back here, and a chair, and it's not my favorite method of painting because I'm more of a control freak, and you cannot control the chipping, and so this particular piece actually chipped a lot more than I wanted it to, and I did add the bonding agent to it. So if That's not a look you really want to use. This is probably not a product for you. Yes, you can paint it on without sanding. That's not an issue, but you cannot control the chipping. So it's going to randomly chip. So, and for instance, too, we've got a chair over here that was painted with milk paint. There is no chipping on that particular chair. To get the worn look, it had to be sanded. So you really cannot control that at all with milk paint. This is a common question is, can you paint laminate furniture? And yes, you can if you prepare the surface. You'll want to lightly sand the surface to kind of scuff it up and get the kind of degloss it a little bit. And then you want to apply a good bonding primer. We've got a couple of good bonding primers here. This one is an oil-based. The odor is pretty strong, but it's a great primer. And you can use a latex paint with it or an oil-based. So it goes either way. This one here is a water-based primer, but you want to read on it where it says that it will bond to all surfaces. And so you want to look for that on the cover or the label of your primer. And then once you've got it primed, then you can go ahead and use any type of paint you want. You could use a spray paint, a latex paint, chalk paint, your choice. Any of those will work.
Sometimes using spray paint is the best option for a piece of furniture, like in this case with this tool chest dresser. This was before we owned a paint sprayer, so I definitely could have bought the paint and used a sprayer that way, but we just used some red glossy spray paint from the can. A couple of things to be mindful of with this is it's going to take more paint than you think initially because there's only so much paint in a can, so overbuy and then you can always return what you don't use. We did do a little bit of prep work with this as well. We did sand and then we did a primer and the paints. When painting metal furniture, you need to select a paint that is specifically for metal. Metal is non-porous and requires special paint, so you'll want to look for an enamel paint that is intended for metal surfaces. Most spray paint works well on metal as well as Rust-Oleum products. You'll also want to either power wash or sand any loose or flaking paint, and for best results, always apply 2 coats of paint. And another thing you'll want to keep in mind when painting metal furniture is exposure to the elements. Select a paint that will help prevent rust if your metal furniture will be exposed to the rain or snow. Shopping for plastic, like patio furniture, yard furniture, is really reasonable when looking on the online classifieds or Facebook Marketplace. And plastic furniture is really easy to paint, so you just want to make sure that you start with a clean piece first, which you'll want to use ammonia-based cleaner, which will remove any mold or mildew.
Lightly sand the furniture piece to ensure that the primer and paint will bond. And then you're just going to apply your spray primer and let that cure. Once your primer has cured, you'll want to choose a spray paint that is specifically for plastics and go ahead and give it a couple of coats of paint. When painting an upholstered piece, you do want to thin your chalk paint with a little water and do several light coats of paint. And then in between, when it dries, you'll want to sand lightly before applying the next coat of paint. That's going to help your paint stay a little more supple. One thing I want to say, though, about painting upholstered furniture is your fabric is not going to feel the same. It's going to be stiff, and it's going to feel more like a canvas weight fabric than a soft upholstered piece.
And while we haven't painted upholstered furniture ourselves, we have painted these fabric curtains. And we also used a fabric medium mixed in with latex paint for these, and it just helps it bond with the fabric. Now let's talk about specialty finishes. We did use a glaze when we refinished this coffee table, so we're going to tell you a little bit about that.
So a glaze will give you some depth and dimension to your wood surface, and it doesn't necessarily thin your paint, but it lets your paint dry slower. And so you mix it into your paint color. So in our case on this table, we used a gray paint into our glazing medium, and we painted it on and then we wiped it off. And so that glaze goes into the grooves and crevices of the table finish and gives you that depth and dimension that we wanted in this piece of furniture.
And we also did apply this glaze over a coat of nice white paint. So that's the base, creating that color contrast.
Another specialty finish that we love to use is salt wash, and that is what we used on this console table.
Salt wash is a paint additive which can be added to any kind of paint. It can be used to create this unique weather-worn, layered sun and salt air soaked look, and I absolutely love it. Salt wash is made with real sea salt, so you'll notice it dries quicker and adheres to almost any surface that takes paint. It's a fun specialty additive that's easy to use and creates a painted finish that looks layered and aged. You may also be wondering, do I really need a top coat after I paint? And this just depends on the paint that you've used. If you use a chalk paint or a milk paint, you must use some sort of protective finish. Generally, we like to use wax over chalk paint or milk paint. However, for a more durable finish, a polyurethane can also be used. To prevent the top coat from yellowing, use a water-based polyurethane. And the Varathane triple thick polyurethane in a matte finish happens to be our favorite. It doesn't yellow and creates an extremely durable finish. If the paint you choose has a satin, semi-gloss, or gloss finish, there is no need to apply a top coat. On the other hand, if the paint used has a flat or eggshell finish, applying a top coat is a good idea. However, you can still keep that matte finish by applying a matte top coat. Here's a look at some of our favorite furniture flips we've done in the past. We know that was a lot of information to cover, so again, be sure to check the description box below to grab your own copy of the Ultimate Guide to Painting so that you can remember all of this that we covered in our video today. There will also be links to each of these specific projects below if you want to see complete tutorials on any of them, and you may also want to check out our latest video of our viewers' favorite top 50 thrifted flips. So there's a bunch of different furniture makeovers in there as well. So thanks so much again for watching. We are glad to have you here, and we hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it with those you may think will enjoy this, and as always here at Sunnyside Design, we hope to bring your home to the sunny side of the street.